Welcome back. On location coverage in the Sunshine State of Florida. Second of two back-to-back Florida events. Last week we were on the Harris Chain. This week, the fabled St. John's River. Our tournament leader, Corey Johnson, trying to chase down his first Elite Series title on a body of water that they do very, very well on. Both the Johnston brothers always show up when we come down here to the Sunshine State. But let's catch up with everything that's been happening on the water with our Toyota Midday Report.
Yeah, good look there of the St. Johns River. Over 100 miles of river and lakes that they have access to. Bob Downey has a great history here. Last time we were here, a second place finish for Bob Downey. Off to a great start after 2 days here. And then this morning, putting a couple in the boat, but then also we saw him lose a few unfortunate losses for Bob Downey. One of them a big one, but currently unofficially in 5th place. A lot of fishing day to go. And he's one of the anglers that have been catching fish throughout the day. Some anglers like a Greg Hackney, a Scott Canterbury need to capitalize on the shad spawn. Bob Downey has been able to get bites throughout the day, so that's been good for him.
The first Canadian ever to win an Elite Series event, Chris Johnston.
It's really amazing to me, and I would think all of the viewers that keep up with our sport and remember the Johnson brothers coming to the Bassmaster Elite Series, what an impact they have made since they've been here. But this was the very first event for them when they both came to the Bassmaster Elite Series. And I had heard about them and how good smallmouth fishermen they are. They came here, and it was like, wow, these guys have been flipping and catching sight fish in this vegetation, and they look like they were at home, and they are a long way from their home waters in Canada. But talking to them, this is what they do more often than not when they were growing up, fishing shallow vegetation for largemouth. So no real surprise once you get to know the Johnson brothers how well they are doing here.
A former Strike King College Bass champion, Jacob Foutz.
Jacob Foutz fishing Rodman Reservoir primarily. Offshore, we've seen Rick Clunn in his 500th event here this week fishing Rodman Reservoir. About 25 to 30 boats the first 2 days we're going over there. Obviously not quite as many today because we have cuts of 50 boats. But Jacob Foutz fishing offshore these fish that are suspended, chasing these bait fish, primarily shad offshore. A lot of the other anglers that have been going to Rodman Reservoir, it's hard to resist all the good hard cover, the wood, the stumps, the vegetation. But he has really got a deal to himself fishing the offshore Rodman Reservoir for these suspended bass, chasing bait. And really, I think his tournament should get better and better because more of these fish are moving offshore for him.
How about the hack attack, Greg Hackney?
Another angler, when you talk about the Johnson brothers having success here, Greg Hackney at the St. Johns River seems to always have success and certainly is doing that here this week. Had a great start this morning, jumped up to second place, had a limit. And I think before Chris and Corey Johnson ever put their lure in the water, because especially Corey, with the run in the idle zone, a little over an hour to get to his first location to start fishing. Greg Hackney had a 5-fish limit in that hour, so definitely got off to a good start, narrowed that gap between him and Corey Johnson. And watch out for Greg Hackney. Anytime he's within reach, and certainly second place is within reach, look out for him. He knows how to seal the deal and close a tournament. He is certainly a proven winner.
Well, here he is, the man with the plan, saying, catch me if you can. Your tournament leader, Corey Johnston.
It's really not a surprise to see Corey Johnson leading this tournament like he is. But then again, it is. If you kept up with tournaments through decades here on the St. Johns River, Salt Springs, Clearwater, Big Fish, typically a third of the field will be in this area. And there were only about 4 boats in there. Day 1 leader, Caleb Summerall was in there, had a big string that first day. Corey Johnson in second place right behind him. Yesterday he took over the lead and left there with a commanding lead. The big key for Corey Johnson is not the numbers of fish he's been catching, but the size. He started the day yesterday with about a 7-pounder. Today, won probably 5.5, maybe even 6 pounds.
Let's get out on the water live with old Bob Downey. Old Bobby, 2-time Classic qualifier and a winner in the Opens and hooked up live.
Not very big. finally didn't lose one. Golly. Okay chunk. Not huge, but it's good to get one in the boat after losing a couple good ones. They're still here. Let's see. Two and a half.
Good for Bob Downey to get that fish in the boat, just like he said. I like to compare our sport to other sports. It's like throwing a couple incompletions, or maybe even that one fish, like throwing an interception and then an incompletion, and then all of a sudden completing a pass and a play. And it means a lot to get off of that streak of losing fish, but it's so important to put every fish you can in the live well.
Over to Jacob Foutz, a former Strike King College Bass champion back then. I called him the paper boy because, he looked like the paper boy on my street. Well, he's a whole different kind of paper boy, fishing for a whole different kind of paper this time around.
I think they're smallmouth or something.
One big thing about Jacob Foutz, I mentioned earlier, he seems to have this whole pattern, not this reservoir necessarily, because there are other anglers there, but you see no one fishing out in the area that he's fishing. And the other thing is always so important. We have a 5-fish limit. Catch quality fish, not numbers of fish. You can catch 5 1-pounders and you've got 5 pounds. He's catching 3 and 4 pounders.
He's not that big. I don't know what's going on.
Solid
I got
fish,
him lassoed
though.
or
Solid
something.
fish.
That was weird. Had him lassoed. I'd get rid of that little one. He ain't big. He's not 2.5, 2 3/4 pounds.
Jacob Foutz. Smallest fish, 112. Not anymore. That looks a little bigger than that. But let's head over to the Hack Attack. Greg Hackney.
Well, man, if I'd have just caught one big one. I got one small one in there. Like I said, I can go to that creek. I've culled in there both days, but to win, I need to catch them here. Now, I mean, I can catch 8-pounder in there, but I mean, as far as being on something, you can catch a random big one in Florida, but the deal is you want to be on something. What is that? Maybe that's just water washing over something. God, yep, that's what it is. I was fixing to go to it. I was like, are they blowing up right there? A lot of times, like when I'm fishing like this, they'll show themselves sometime. I've been waiting on that. There's something, missing something after the morning deal, and I just keep, just like this morning, they blowing up. I'm like, there's a really unique place right out there off that grass. I know we'll hit it sometime today. The birds went right here this morning, so still plenty dark, plenty early.
Great morning for Greg Hackney. And watching him fish cypress trees, I mean, that is stereotypical postcard bass fishing.
It certainly is, especially for Greg Hackney. He grew up doing this. But he mentioned it's still plenty dark, he said. The shad spawn is what he's keying in on, and these bass are keying in on for sure. And once the sun gets up, those shad move back offshore, and they don't continue to spawn. So the low light this morning has really helped him and gives him a longer period of time to be able to target these fish that are up around these cypress trees chasing these shad.
From Greg Hackney, we'll travel back over to Jacob Foutz. All by himself, surrounded by nothing but 3 to 4 pound bass. That's
Yes.
a pretty good place to be.
That's a great place to be.
And it's Florida, so I bet you there's a few bigger ones there too.
One thing about what Jacob Foutz is doing, unlike Greg Hackney, he is looking for bait fish and these fish that are around the shad, but more fish as the sun comes up will suspend and gravitate out in the lake towards where Jacob Foutz is fishing. So for one angler, the sun coming up is not necessarily a good thing, and the other angler, it is definitely a good thing for him.
It's a pretty nice one.
Fout's not a very talkative man.
He's not. He's certainly not.
Does his talking at the scales.
Yep. Even the quiet ones seem to talk when they've got a 3 or 4 pound bass on, but not Jacob Foutz.
He's going to work.
There is one boat out in the lake with him, but I think that's one of our camera boats. So no worries for him. No one else fishing around him. Taking it real easy with his fish. Light line, spinning tackle. A big key for him to get these fish to bite. Clear water. These fish are pressured. We are in Florida, and people fish here 365 days a year. So these fish can be finicky.
It can be finicky. But the pressure will get a lot less tomorrow because the goal today, of course, congratulations, you've made semifinal Saturday. Quest number 2, you want to get to the next level of this video game? You have to make Championship Sunday. And to do that, you need to be inside our top 10. Our tournament leader, Corey Johnson. And you can see Jacob Foutz sneaking up on him in second place. Greg Hackney, Chris Johnston, Mark Menendez, always a player here. And these are the guys you got to watch because they are knocking at that top 10. Who do you think's going to sneak in there?
You got to be thinking Wes Logan's going to make a move.
He's 11th, of course.